that, always really modeling that thinking clearly is so, so important. Great point, thanks. All right, just a quick note here, like I said before, these two things are so interconnected. I think that's important to keep in mind. And in a very realistic context, you're going to have CMAs who struggle with the first one, and you're going to have CMAs who struggle with the second one. And either one, if it's a problem, is a problem for this entire thing working. And we've already had some examples of the interconnectedness here. Think of it like in teaching, we've got lesson planning, we've got execution. And if I'm planning solid lessons but I can't execute them, my kids aren't learning. If I'm executing something that wasn't a solid plan in the first place, my kids aren't learning. Okay? So definitely a clear connection here, and a connection that's got to happen. Both of these pieces need to be strong in order for our CMAs to do this well. And as Chrissy said at the beginning, this is fundamentally one of the biggest parts of your CMA's job. I think if you count by the hours, this is where they're spending their time, but this is where a lot of their impact comes in with individual coaching with core members. It is so important that we get this right and that these things are happening. So just a quick recap of where we've been so far, and then I'm going to pass it over to Chrissy. So when the observation debrief cycle is working, we've got these two outcomes we're looking for. Student achievement going up, core members' ability to help themselves improve is increasing as well. We've got a big connection here, as I said earlier, between the academic impact model, continuously increasing effectiveness, observation, debrief cycle, all really the same thing and based on the same idea of this thinking process that we're going to spend more time on here today. And then finally, those two steps that we're going to talk about throughout the rest of this session, analyzing a classroom and communicating about it. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Chrissy to talk a little bit more about magically moving so gracefully analyzing the classroom.
And scene. Okay. Okay. It's like that never even happened, I'm sure. Okay, so what we're going to do for the next chunk of time here is spend some time talking about what it means for a CMA to be able to do this well. And I know that as school directors and CMACs, and probably given all the PD Institute experience, many people in this room have done a co-investigation. But your new role as a school director is going to be to manage people through this process, which I do think provides sort of a different set of skills. Because ultimately, as a school director, what you're going to need to be able to do is walk out of a classroom with the CMA and check their thinking. So when they say, school director, here's what I'm thinking, you need to be able to say, yes, that logic sounds right, or actually, here's where your logic's breaking down, and here's what I'm thinking about that. So your instructional knowledge is going to be one of the things that you get to use most in this process of managing, and I would say a healthy degree of critical thinking. So what we're going to do in the next 40 minutes or so is basically I'm going to walk you through what it would look like for a CMA to do this at a high level, so that you can actually see a vision for what it looks like to analyze the classroom logically. Because I think if you have that vision, you'll be able to see the summer when pieces of that are breaking down. And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a lesson plan, we're going to watch a core member teaching, and then I'm going to walk you through that process, and then at the end, you're going to have a chance at your tables to do the exact same thing with a different example. Okay, so let's talk about a core member of mine. She is a 7th grade math teacher. She is strong in planning, actually. This is something that she has exceeded our expectations at, including lesson plans for rules and procedures and daily lesson plans. And in our past conversations, we've worked on her ability to introduce new material. And the reason, just kind of to step out of this context, that we're going to start with planning is because what I know about her planning is going to shape the way I head into her observation, right? Like, right now, I'm thinking for Jessica, planning seems to be something she's moved beyond. In fact, to get more specific, from the lesson plan I'm about to observe right now, I would say she's almost at the AP level on the TAL rubric. And the way I've checked that, which you'll learn a little more about later, is I looked at her objective, right, and I said, is this rigorous for 7th grade? Is it measurable, etc.? And it was, because it was on her ISAT look. And then I checked for alignment between the objective and her assessment. And then I checked all the middle pieces to say, if she took these steps in the other parts of the lesson plan, would it lead to mastery? And from my assessment of her lesson plan, I would say yes. So I'm heading into this observation of Jessica with already the idea that it's probably something more related to execution or investment. Okay. So, can someone read this slide really loud? Please. Really loudly, not me. Yes.
The first thing I need to do is, in logically investigating a classroom, is watch the students and the teacher. What is everyone doing?
So I want to underscore this, what is everyone doing? Because I think if you haven't done a lot of teacher observation of teachers, you might have a natural inclination to just be like taking notes on the teacher, right? Like I'm observing you and I'm going to be giving you feedback, so I'm watching what you're doing. This is me typing on a keyboard. And what you also want to do is observe what are the students doing? How many of those students are doing it? Which table groups are doing that? At which part of the lessons are they doing it? So as a CMA, my notes are going to be on both of those things, and as school directors, when you talk to me, you're going to want information about both sets of those people. So what we're going to do right now is we are going to watch a Corover's classroom. Her name is Jessica.